What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Wiggs. Gonna do a bit different of a video than usual. I know I'm right in the middle of a playthrough, but we just had a new Pokemon Presents today for Pokemon Day, and we had the announcement of the new Pokemon Legends ZA game, and it looks really interesting, so I wanted to just make a quick video on my original thoughts of it, my reactions to the trailer and whatnot. So I'm going to be playing the trailer video footage over top of this video, so at least you have something to look at. And just wanted to give a quick rundown of what I'm thinking and questions I have for the game. So the first thing we know is that it's going to release in 2025. So the Switch 2 was rumored to have been pushed back to 2025. I wonder if this lines up with the release date. So say, is it going to launch on the original Switch as well as its successor, whether or not that's called the Switch 2 or not? And the thing is, since it's coming out in 2025, it's probably going to be Q1. I'm not saying it's going to be January like the first Legends Arceus game was, but you can't have it too late in the year, because knowing Game Freak, they're probably going to want to release another game in 2025 in the final quarter. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, but it's definitely going to be, I would say, sometime in that January to April range. Just have no idea what it's going to look like. It might just be determined by the release date of the Switch 2, but it definitely be wrong by that. It's just a rumor, obviously. And the next thing is, so since this game it clearly is in the past still, but not nearly as far back as Legends Arceus was, does that mean that the battle mechanics are going to be the same as Arceus? Are they going to be more up to date, but it's just going to be the same sort of catching mechanic and exploration mechanics as Arceus? There's a lot they can do with it now, because when I originally watched it, I thought it was in the future, but obviously, like Game Freak said and whatnot, it's still in the past, but it's just not that far in the past. It's really just leading up to what Lumiose City is like in X and Y. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And another thing that we do need to consider is, because Unova is my favorite region, I'm already doing my second playthrough in Unova, and I was looking forward to getting remakes for them, but I'm definitely not unsatisfied with things. A new Legends game, especially in Kalos, is going to be super interesting, so I'm very excited for it. But now we have to realize that Unova remakes probably aren't going to be for maybe till 2026 at minimum, because you have to think Generation 10 is going to come out most likely in 2026, so maybe they release Unova remakes at the latter portion of next year. But if they were, I feel like they would announce it, or maybe they'll announce it at the next year's Pokemon Day. Who knows? It's just really weird. You're going to have to consider, because if it isn't coming out, or if the remakes aren't coming out until 2026 at minimum, that's going to be 16 years, or actually 15 years from the original release date, which it's a very long time. It's going to be similar to Diamond and Pearl, but typically remakes don't take that long. You have to think, let's see, so the games originally came out, Pokemon did, in 1996. We had Red and Blue, or By Red and Leaf Green, in 2004. And then we had Heart Gold and Soul Silver in 2010, which I believe was 12 years after the original release date. And then I think the Hoenn remakes were 11 years after Ruby and Sapphire. So usually they're somewhere in that 10 to 13 year range, not 15, 16, which, who knows? Like I said, it still could come out in the final quarter of next year, because there will probably be a game released in the latter half of next year. But there's a lot to consider. I'm very glad that Game Freak is waiting until 2025 to release a game, because I started a Scarlet playthrough on my channel. I just couldn't finish it because the game is so laggy, it's so unoptimized. It's just a pain to play through, and it's a shame, because the game itself is fun. The region is cool, the new Pokemon are great, the story's good. It's just a slog. It's so boring to play through and look at. And it's like, if you make a great game, it doesn't even really have to be insane graphics. I just want it to frickin' run. I'll play the hell out of it, and most people would. And it's just really unfortunate, because if Scarlet and Violet did live up to their potential, they would probably be the best games in the series. I digress. I think waiting until 2025, even if that means it's the first quarter, is still a good thing. That gives them a few extra months to optimize the game, possibly even release it on the Switch 2, which is going to be much stronger hardware. I think it's all in all a great decision. But in terms of how the game is going to be, obviously I think AZ from X and Y is going to be in the game, but how is Team Flare going to play into the plot? Is it Lysander in the game, or is it still too far in the past for him to really be a factor in it? Is it going to show how he brings up Team Flare to be what it was? Clearly they won't be a villain, because they weren't a villain until X and Y. So very interesting to see there. I don't think they're going to go with like the Ancestor route like they did in Legends Arceus, because, I mean, they'll have some obvious callbacks, but, you know, with it being so close to the original timeline, I don't know if they can really make that work. But obviously I'm not a Game Freak, I'm not a dev. They can do what they want, and I'm sure I'll love it regardless. But yeah, the last thing I wanted to consider is that now Legends Arceus released in the first quarter of 2022, This game is going to release most likely in the first quarter of 2025. That's 2 Legends games in a 3-year span. Does that mean that Legends games are going to be released as frequently as the main series games? I think it's a really interesting thing to consider because it could be like a semi-annual release along with new generations, remakes. It could just be thrown into that fold to where you have a trifecta of games, main series games, that you rotate. I would support that. I don't know how long they can keep the Legends games going without making it seem like a regular main series game. Or, who knows what they do with this game. Maybe they continue the battle system for Marcus, which in my opinion needs work because it's too imbalanced towards faster Pokemon, but we can get into that at a later date. Still, the battle system itself is much different than the main series game, so it has its own identity along with the catching mechanics. I think it's basically like the greatest version possible of Pokemon Go. So it's very interesting. I think it'd be really cool if they had main series games like New Generation or a third version of a generation, remakes, and then Legends games. All 3 of those combined, along with other spin-offs you could have like Mystery Dungeon, Pokemon Rangers, all that stuff that they could throw in there, would be amazing. Especially with the new Switch 2 coming out that reportedly is on the same level, hardware-wise, graphically speaking, of a PS4 and an Xbox One, which is still 1 generation behind, but still very strong. It's just going to take things to the next level. And hopefully Game Freak, because obviously they have not utilized the Switch properly in terms of graphics, even though the Switch is not a powerful system, they made their games run like potatoes. So hopefully they finally quit with that, make quality games that people will actually enjoy, and we'll see where they go from there. But yeah, looking forward to when we get a release date, we get some actual gameplay of Legends ZA. I think the premise is really cool, so I'm very excited. Hope you guys are too. Just let me know in the comments what you all think, and like and subscribe, and we'll be back to the regularly scheduled programming with a Blaze Black 2 Redux video here soon. So until next time, have a good one.